we did an analysis taking a look at the constituents of the local index to assess the independent board directors on the board. There were a couple of things that we looked at. We looked at the number of years these independent directors have served on the board, how many other boards they sit on, and also the gender diversity of these companies' boards. In general, we found that old economy sectors such as utilities, telecom, and property were weaker on these three aspects that we look at. And in some instances, there were independent directors that serve on even more than a dozen boards at a time. And if that happens, then one would question whether or not these people would have the time to dedicate to each of the boards that they serve on.
Which companies in particular will need to make pretty significant changes, and how sort of long-term do you see a number of these directors on these boards? Sort of how entrenched is the problem of a lack of representation when you take a look at the makeup of these boards?
We can take the proposed changes from the local regulators. So some of the proposed changes relates to how long a director can serve on the board and the makeup, the gender makeup of the board. So under one of the proposed changes, if a company have all of their independent directors serving more than 9 years, then the company would have to appoint a new independent director. The rationale behind this is that if the independent directors have served on the board for too many years, then they might become too familiar with the company and the judgment may be impaired. Under another change that the regulator is proposing, it relates to gender diversity. So if there is a single gender board with no female representation, then companies will have 3 years to introduce a new independent director or director to the board that is a female person. Under the analysis that we did, about 25% of the boards of the constituents in the local index have single gender boards with no female representation currently.
Which sectors are the worst offenders?
Typically, these are the utilities, telecom, gaming, and property sectors we found to be worse in these metrics that we look at, whether it be how long they've served or the gender.
So who are doing better?
We find that in the female representation, for instance, the financial companies tend to fare better. They have about 20% of their board members that have female representation versus the index average of about 13%.